Hi, so this is a video proposal for the new, actually a supposed new mark quad strips option for ZenUV. So to start with, I'm getting this model which I have previously exploded the parts just to make, accessing the separate parts a bit easier. And let me assign a material, which is actually, this guy here, a trim sheet material, where I have multiple sections. I have previously defined the trim sheets. Okay, so let me just get my notes here. Just a second. Oh, yeah, I won't. Pause for a second. Right, so as I've shown in that picture there that I sent you, let me just start doing things from start. It'll probably be easier to explain what's the number 1 types, number 2 types, and number 3 types. Okay, so let me just get rid of the material view, so it's not as disturbing as it was previously. Alright, so of course I already have the modifier for mirroring. If I go to face select mode, I can run mark by angle operation on all of them. Usually I do selected only. Selection respect should be a default in my opinion. But anyways, maybe there's a way to make that a default and I don't know. So one thing that's very important is to ensure that you only have quads. There might be a couple of triangles, but I try to get rid of them, as best as possible. In this case, to do that, usually I have a shortcut for that. Select faces by sides and 4, and then I invert. Seems to be the easiest way to get everything from triangles to, pentagons and multi-sided polygons. So after I do that, I hit W for move, as I'm using industry standard shortcuts. And then if the cursor does not show up, that means you have nothing but quads in your topology, in your geometry, which is what you want. Okay, so with that assured, I will go to face select mode again, and then go mark by angle. Select everything, and I'll do it again. The angle is usually 30 degrees, seems to be a good starting option. Sometimes I will go lower, and sometimes I may need to bump that up, but it's usually a good starting point. Alright, so let's use somewhere around 30. Yeah, that's good. So what's the goal? It's there's some things you want to prevent, and I can show exactly why. So for instance, suppose I get this guy here, I'm gonna mark. I have shortcuts for that. I think it's the default, it's just Y and U to unset it. But anyways, so let's suppose I get this. I'll just do this a bit faster, and let me do a Xenon wrap. It's not. Oh, it's whole mesh. Okay, select it only. Do an F to fit. So it seems to be a good quad panel, but as a matter of fact, it's not because of this part here. So if I go here, and do a quadrify, you see that this will not fit the trim sheet because there's an L. Of course, if the trim sheet has L-shaped areas, but honestly, those are hard to create, hard to manage, and it's, I don't know, some cases might be useful, but if you're sticking to ZenUV's standard, you most certainly not want to do that. So in those cases, you always want to do, this instead. And mark this, and so yeah, this works fine. It's what I call one of the number ones. It's just a regular strip, which could be a panel. In this case, a panel because it got more than one row or column. So I call it a panel, but it's just a nomenclature that I use. I'm not sure if it's even the best term for that. So here it's similar. I simply cannot have this as a single island. Won't work. I would have to choose position or place where it would have the edge of the UV island. Could be this. And then I won't want these. As you can see, I have to manually define those strips. Another case is when you get radial topology like that. So, I would say the system or the proposal for the quad strips marked by quad strips. I think that would be a decent name, or marked by strips, maybe. I'm not sure it should do take all decisions for you, make all decisions for you. It probably shouldn't. But if we have the threshold thing, it would realize this is a valid strip or number one type. So it would do this. This would probably tag, depending on the angle. Suppose it's I don't know, maybe 15 degrees. This would not be marked, most probably. This would be marked, this would be marked. And this, for being basically coplanar, it would not, So let me just select those guys, just keep doing my stuff and explain as situations show up. For me, this is a great candidate for a single strip. And I would have to decide if I would slice here or not. Supposing I want it a continuous strip, I would do this. And I'll mark. And then you'd have this, long strip going over here, but it cannot be a full enclosed loop. Otherwise you get a box or even a circle, depending on how you unwrap, which is not what we want. Usually you will want to get those seams hidden somewhere, lower parts, probably here, and I'll mark this. So this would be a strip, and this part at the bottom would be another strip. And you both probably don't want to do a single very long strip, just because if you check the actual UV layout, it's not very, it's hard to see here. Let me put an image. I think I have to unselect it, yeah. As you see, there are not that long strips in the default layout from ZenUV, so maximum would be something like this, so that's just an artistic choice. Maybe you could read from the train sheet and use that as a guide to not exceed, or try to not exceed too much, or maybe a threshold of 20%, 15%, I don't know, from how much stretch you want from the strips that you have available in the trim sheet. I think that would be a plus. It's not the most important, just mentioning that. And anyways, back to the work here. This kind of corner does provide some distortion, so sometimes, depending on the model, I would just do this. Especially at the top part, you don't want that distorted. You better just get a separate strip, right? So I'll probably do this. This one are long and thick. I think they would just make the curve. Yeah. So you'd get like this strip, this is an isolated strip, this is another strip, and this would be a single strip. I think the angle, the curvature is not, you know, that, it's not that curvy. The angle is not that large. Many times as you're working on that, you tend to you know, tweak the geometry to make it flow a little bit better. Sometimes you didn't make the model, and yeah, take advantage of that moment to just play with it, line things around. Yeah, definitely not your part, just I'm just taking advantage of it as I'm doing it, right, for real. Alright, so here would be the same. Probably just do the selection, edge selection, unmark. I would most probably get you guys like this. Here, some corner distortion wouldn't be too bad because of the size. It's relatively small. So let me do this. Okay. Same thing here at the top. I would most probably have this as a single strip. And let's see, these are just isolated. Could have this or not sure. Single strip. That's it. Okay, so let me just get rid of these guys. So it becomes a longer strip. I think this would be separated. This would be connected, like so, single strip, isolated strip. Why? Because I would potentially separate this into different materials of sort. So let me mark this. This would probably be a single material. So I'm just thinking about the actual materials that I could use. It's not, this is the artistic part. That's definitely not the algorithm part. The algorithm would probably just have this single strip, you know, just from here to here, because of the, you know, it's the angle threshold is too slow in terms of slope variation and all. All right, so, oh, by the way, feel free to speed up the video as much as needed, and it's gonna be a bit long because I'm just, like I said, doing part art, part technical. Anyways, so for instance here, I would get rid of you guys, get rid of those. So this would be a single strip, this would be a single strip, this could be a separate one, and this a single strip. Here's obviously a tad complicated, but I've just turned this into an U. Doesn't seem like it, but that works well. It's just 1, 2, 3. Becomes a single strip. Distorts a bit, of course, but that's a small piece, so no big deal. And these, I would most probably just make this. Oops, lots of stuff in the front. I could have split those. Do the same. Again, more of an artistic choice. If we use an angle threshold and algorithm, this would probably be, you know, everything unmarked or everything marked. So it would be something like this. The problem with those is that, just like in these areas, you have to pick one of the edges to open it up. So one possibility in terms of an algorithm would be to just get the edge, the orthogonal edge, which is lowest. So in this case, lowest I mean from the z direction, the height, because it usually hides things better. Of course, if the artist wants to tweak it later, he does it. But just to give him something automatic, you could just, okay, so those are the two lowest. You just pick one randomly, or just pick one furthest from, you know, like deeper in the Y direction, probably. So anyways, one of those would be the one selected. Suppose it's this one, I would mark it. And this becomes a strip from here all the way through here, right? Single strip. I'm not saying it's the best looking thing, but sometimes you want that. Depends on the texture. If you have something like strips, bumpy things which are orthogonal to the area here of the trim sheet, it tends to look good. But yeah, like I said, artistically speaking, I would prefer to just have the sides separate, and this as a single strip. So it'll do this, and these will be separate. Alright, so this will be a single one, this will be a single one, this will be a single one, this will be a single one. Fine. So far so good. Okay, so this wing's done. Let me try to, this will be a bit more exciting. So I don't think I have to make you wait to this bottom part, but this one should be interesting. So before I get to this, let me show how I would solve the thing. First, let me do the inner circle. I would try to get more hidden parts here. So I'll probably just get the top ones, not you. And get a slice here. Okay. So yeah, just thinking. Well, let me do this. Let me unmark everything. It'll probably be faster, except from these diagonal ones. Okay, I marked everything. So I'm thinking of all the strips. So I have one quad, strips. This is a bit too long, but I think it works actually. It's gonna do like this up to here, and this one gonna be like so. Yeah, this works. Back to the point here, I would do the same. Oh wait, no, not you. You probably do the same. Maybe mark those. And at the top, what I would do is, you know, kind of match this edge which I've previously chosen, and just to mark the rest. This will make it a long strip, you know, from here to here. So it unfolds like that. It's a bit too long, so I probably do this. So I get like 2 segments. Once again, the position where you slice it would be random, you know, if it's fully automatic. But an artist would just kick in like I did and just select what, you know, kind of follows the other island edges like this, right? Or if the algorithm, you want to make it really smart, you can just do it, you know, just check for nearby, leave those for a second pass, and in the second pass you just define the easiest ones, and then okay, radio slicing or separation of the strips, and then you search for the nearmost island edge. Alright, so now I would probably separate you. This would be a strip. I take advantage of this connection and turn this into another strip. Perfect. Okay, so back to the last guy I'm gonna show you here. Let me just select flag connected. I do an isolation. Sometimes it doesn't want to do it. Come on, isolate it for me. No, it won't. I just do I force the separation, mesh based one. And okay, let's start. Obviously here it's just like it was like super aggressive, so I just do a mark by angle again. Yeah, there you go. We try to reduce a little bit, see if it looks better. Not by much. Okay, this looks a bit better for what I want. So here you can already see that some stuff did work well from start, like this. I like it. This is probably, using angle threshold is probably a good place to have it sliced to. But here, well, that doesn't work. That's an L. That's what I tagged as number 2. When you just have to separate it like so. And if I'm separating it here, probably makes sense to keep going and use that to slice this rounded part. Rounded areas, they are a problem by themselves. So thinking again, actually I don't want to do this. I want to kind of get this as a panel. So just get this is a, well, not all of it, because there's a corner here which turns it into a kind of like an L-shaped panel, which is definitely not what we want. But yeah, let me start from here and get this corner here. And I probably mark U. And since there's a, as usual, as in any topology work, you usually want to work with check the poles, because poles usually they give you hints about selection flow and even deformation flow. So in this case, you get this guy where you can see that it crosses three edges. This vertex here, it's the same here. You can see that it just crosses 3 edges. I'm sure you're aware of the poles. Poles are very important. And this is also a pole. Doesn't seem like it. Well, actually it is a different pole, because it's a star-shaped pole. If you look at it from this angle, you can see that it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like a star. And yeah, those are also big, very significant. This is a three-point or Y-shaped pole, as I call them. But yeah, like I was saying, poles are the main indicator. We're talking here about topology, because that's what defines the panels and all of that. So what I would do here is probably to just turn this into a single strip. And since there's a pole here, like I said, well, it's not super important in this case, because I could just, aside from this guy, which is that, number 2 case that I mentioned, I painted as orangish in that graphic. You would separate it anyways, but check how this is. Even with the pole, this is a quad panel, even with the pole here. So it's not the pole that defines that you need a slice, especially if it's in Y pole. But yeah, most usually star poles like this, they define that you need another UV island edge, right? Or marking the edges as seam. I was trying to remember the name. Yeah, so those are seams, UV seams. Again, here you cannot have this. Wouldn't work. I can even show you, like if I do a Zen unwrap and I try to quadrify it, becomes an L instantly, an L-shaped block. So you can't do that. There's a trick which you could use, but that's just for topology, which is marking this, and marking that, then you wrap and quadrify, but you know, doesn't work here as well. It just makes things better for texturing when you wanna stretch those and organic shapes and stuff. Here it doesn't work. You really have to either separate everything, or how I prefer to do it, you will do this. So you got one strip here and another strip here. Right? This is easily a quad panel, so I just do the select circle thing, go to edge mode, and unmark. This is another quad panel. Sometimes I start thinking of it as a quad panel, but then I have a, you know, star pole like this. Some people call it 5-edged pole. I think it's too long, and I like to think it as a star. Think of it as a star. Yeah, so like I was saying, sometimes I just start thinking of it as a panel, and then I decide to make it into a strip. That's, you know, that's the artistic thing. You don't want that from the algorithm, because the algorithm can't do it. The algorithm would just give me a much better kickstart. That's the whole point of the algorithm. So the thing is, make sure everything is quad panels and quad strips. That's the main thing. So if I'm, for instance, here, what is better? To have this as a strip and those guys as a quad panel? It really depends on the texturing. If I'm thinking of having this as kind of like a single material, you see, it would be, and here having another material, maybe, which is not the case. I think this should be a single material. That's why I did it. But suppose I hadn't, I would do the opposite. I would have this guy unmarked and these two marked and this guy marked. And I would have this strip, this panel, and probably another panel here. Let me just unmark this. You know, so as I was saying, if you check here, I have multiple different materials. So I have the light, the dark, the what we call the faction color, which changes according to faction. One is more yellowish, the other is more purplish. One is darker, the other is lighter, etc. And here's the team color. It's for an RTS game, so this is basically multiplied by the color of your player, the color you selected to play with for your army. If it's blue, it's blue. It's green, it's green. So all of those are variations of the theme. These are variations of the dark. And there's this oddity, which is for tank tracks and stuff, and cars, etc. Car wheels, actually. And so yeah, variations of the light, variations of the faction color. Those oranges here are brightest. I'm just explaining to you why it is like that. So basically, I go here. I'm gonna show you next. I'm just do a pass here, quick pass, so you see where that goes in the end. It's probably easier to show than to explain. Anyways, let me finish this. So I think I screwed up somewhere because I lost my selection here. I don't know where. In some moment I ran the mark by angle operation again, I think. Anyways, let me just do it quickly. It's no big deal. Just select everything here, unmark. We do this. Unmark everything here. close the strip. Yeah, that's correct now. Let me save it. So yeah, one strip, one panel, and another panel here. So I got one strip and two panels. Oh yeah, and one isolated quad. Perfect. I think those are fine. I would probably remove these, I think. Yeah, the angle is too shallow. This is it's what I call the, you know, it's not enough to create a number 3. Here it is, you know, it exceeds the angle threshold. So let me mark those. I'm not sure if I should separate this. It's good if I have, you know, I want like the dark material here to get like a detail, and then I would surround it, but yeah, no big deal right now. So yeah, this would be a panel, you know, just thinking algorithmically, this would just be a panel. No need to slice it. From an artist standpoint, I would probably, you know, do it myself, but that would be a second pass, just, you know, the finesse. The finesse pass would always be done by the artist. In this case, I would probably, you know, I think it would look cool to have this as a single strip, even if it distorts a little bit. And if I'm wrong, I can just get back here and adjust it. All right, let me wrap this up as fast as I can. No breakage here. The angle threshold is probably too much, so I have it broken. Not enough. I just clear all of those, and you can see that this can easily become a single strip. This can easily become a single strip. A mark. Mark. I'm pretty sure I don't need this entire edge to be marked. I can't even remember why I added it, to be honest. Let's see, just think about the topology. Nothing needed here. Yeah, I think this one is entirely dismissible. Unless I had something to connect here. Doesn't seem to be the case. Well, I'll just get rid of it. I probably did it to not have it super stretched and maybe add some more detailing, but honestly, I don't think it's useful. Here, I can think some curvature, you know, added by here. You see, no real difference. So I just got rid of it. Anyway, here it's a corner. So if you want to preserve else as much as possible, I would unmark this. If I want to have it more sliced, I would preserve it. Once again, artistic decision. This would be, based on angle, would be removed. And here, there's actually a problem. There's actually an L, because if you think about it as a strip, this one is connected to the side and not to the top. So you definitely need to keep this. Otherwise, you're going to end up with an L-shaped island. Here, just need to select those. When it's close to the center, as it's a mirrored object, it's obviously much easier because, you know, you can just have a long strip here. Or if you really want to slide things a bit further, you would keep like this. You know, so you have one strip coming here. It would be also this strip, another smaller strip at the bottom. It's really up to what you want to do. Yeah, let's just suppose you're using the algorithm. I wouldn't tag this for slice. This is a strip. This polygon reduction got pretty weird, but yeah, I gotta deal with it. I think I will leave like this part as a single strip and these ones as separate ones. So I probably mark everything, just do this mark again, and just add those, just out, and here, and this is out. Okay, here, given the angle threshold, this would probably be contiguous, single strip, single strip, and single strip. Like I said, one strip, the center mirrored, so you already get an UV seam anyway, so it just works. Just double check everything real quick. Here at the top, well, this actually cannot be. I need to have this as a single strip here, and this would be an isolated quad, as in the number 2 example I've shown before. Here, separated. Not sure about that one, if I should slice it or not, probably. Fortunately, I don't have a diagonal here, or else it would do like a U shape. It would become a strip anyways. I think I'll just keep this edge, this one, because it's a continuity to this part. Then I'm going to mark this, and I'll mark this. So one island, one strip, 2 strips. And here I have to figure out what to do with this guy, probably this. So I got one isolated island, but it's at the bottom. I could, and this will become like a single strip. This might distort a bit too much, depends on the texture, because it just becomes a single strip and there's a corner, etc. If it does, I would just do that. As for the algorithm, I think you could have an option to just have all diagonals, you know, across the strips, the selected strips to be marked or not. You know, like so. Just create more strips. But sometimes it'll be better. Anyways, like I said, you don't need to make it perfect in terms of those hard choices, because you can't. It's just artistic decisions. At the top here, I probably remove those. Don't need those as separated. And there you go. Let me just check the bottom real quick. I think it's okay. This one will be probably single strip. A bit too long. No, let it be. Or else it's gonna be too long and stretched out. All quads. Okay, strip. All right, good to go. And let's see. So with that done, save the model, of course. I would, let me just get this merged back. Of course, I would do this part here. So instead of merging, let me just show you how it would work in this specific dude. So yeah, like I said, apply material, switch to material view. So you can see everything. Usually it's easier to see at the mirrored part because there's no whitewashing or whatever is this. And you just do select everything, then unwrap. And usually it's hard for you to see if everything is okay right after you do the unwrap, but as long as you do the quadrify, so you're probably seeing that I tend to keep the 3D view or editor, the 3D viewport actually, with the unwrap tab and the one at the UV showing the transform, so it's easier for me to just select the options I need. Anyway, just clicking quadrify, just do a quick visual inspection. In this automatic mode, you'd probably issue an alert if there are triangles, you know, or multi-sided polygons, which cannot be sliced into strips or single quads or quad panels or whatever. And yeah, there you have it. Quad panels, strips, single quads, etc. So that's what you want. And after you do that, you go to the trim sheet options. In my case, I tend to start texturing from the faction color trim sheets. So I just go to trim sheet presets. I got all of them saved here. Took me a little bit of time, but not too hard. I think I saved it as yeah, I think I saved those. It's been some time. I know there's an option here to save it as a preset, and then I added the preset files to just duplicate and, you know, offset, etc. Alright, so as soon as you load the trim sheets, you have to select this tool. Just something that I tend to forget sometimes. Why is it not showing the overlay? It's just about selecting the ZenUV transform that it shows. And all I do is hotspot mapping, really. Looking at the other side, and I just check the result. Like I said, some things will be more distorted, especially, you know, on those long strips or cornered strips, and others will be just fine. Important here is to prioritize the well, first, key proportion should default to no. I don't know why it's yes, really, because you want it to stretch as much as possible to take advantage of the corners. You know, when you do that, you start getting some clips, and this just takes the whole space correctly. And yeah, from visual spectrum, this is pretty good, actually. So one thing I always do, in case anyone is watching this, just to see how I work with trim sheets, is area matching. I always use manual, so that I have control in terms of the parts of the regions of the texture that I'm taking. So if I reduce this and I keep sliding it, I start getting the smaller ones, which are usually for smaller parts. And as I, you know, bump it up, I start getting the bigger ones. Sometimes it's tricky to get a good distribution among them. And many times I don't even have to touch up those majorly distorted ones. I just enable allow variability, and then allow not rotation. I think rotation messes up normals, but location is pretty good. And I don't use the detect radio for obvious regions, as I'm using just strips. But yeah, then I play with variation offset. I start looking at spots that I think could be better. This one probably won't change because of the match and scale, unless there's a big leap here. Yeah, I'm sure I can get it that much better, I'm afraid. Is it that better? Yeah, I think the lighter's pretty sensitive. You try manually doing like 0.15, 0.1, 0.5. Yeah, too small. 0.001. Yeah, this ended up fixing this part. 0.1. Nope. 0.01. I like this better. I'd probably do, you know, hand tweaks for this part, which is like the cockpit and stuff, but that gives you an idea. So just to show you what I meant about like assigning different materials, I would, you know, quickly select, for instance, suppose I want to have this part as dark or light. I don't know, let's use dark. So I would just go here and select dark as a basis, load the trim sheet, which is over here, and then I hotspot again. And look at the size, tweak matching scale to see what what looks best, and check here visually what islands were taken, and there you go, separate material. So now suppose I want this part as team color, I would just select it. And load trim sheet for team, which is this guy, and then hotspot again, and you can see that it's now using the team color, which is assigned to blue in the shader, but can be whatever in game. Anyways, that's how it works. Of course, you can also offset whatever was defined previously, but since they're mirrored, sometimes that's a bit of a problem. So if I go from here to here, fine. But if I go here from here, I have to offset it and then, flip relatively to the center of the active plane. That works, but does require you to, probably flipping first and then offsetting. So I'm not using that too much. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell. Hope that helped to showcase what I was suggesting. And keep up the great work. I love the trim sheet feature, and hope it keeps evolving. It helps us a lot to optimize the texture usage. We've got hundreds of models in this game, which wouldn't be possible otherwise. We're doing it manually, so yeah, trim sheet and hotspotting. We started from ZenUV, but I barely touch this this tab anymore. Just here for, I know sometimes I use grab UV from selection, but I know ZenUV does it too. It's just because I got the shortcuts here already set. But that's all really. All right, that's it. Hope it helped, and keep it up. Cheers.